Check, check.
Here we go.
Okay, how do you usually start the podcast?
You can start it. You're in charge. You're in
I
the
know.
host seat now. Sort of like, well, here we are. It's not very dramatic when I have somebody on. Normally I'll just be like, well,
What's
how's
up?
it going? Yeah, what's going on?
Okay, well, here we are.
You shouldn't try to do this like how I would. You should do it how, like, you're in charge now. This is
I wanted
Tori's
to
show.
give like a bit of the spiel, like, hey everyone, I'm Cam.
Yeah, do it. And you can even do it to a camera. Mix it up
Okay.
a little.
Hi everyone, I'm Cam and welcome to my podcast. What's the name of the podcast again?
Well, it has been recapping with Cam for a while, but it's going to change soon. Probably to No Worries If Not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And talk us through the name No Worries If Not. Why do you keep landing on that?
You're not going to do the intro then?
That is the
Okay,
intro.
okay.
Well, we've begun.
Yeah, intro done. I just think it's a funny statement. And I saw a meme of a horse running through a house, the indoors of a house, and the text over top of it was "No worries if not." And so for me, the phrase "No worries if not" alludes to the fact that there actually is a lot of worries. And to me, that's funny that it's such a common statement, yet often the people saying it do have things they're very concerned about. Like people will be like, "Oh, are you cool to work the weekend? No worries." Oh no, you have to ask somebody something and then say "No worries if not." Hey, can you lend me some money? Because I actually can't eat unless you lend me the money. No worries if not.
Yeah.
When really, yeah, there is.
There's
there
so
is
many worries.
Yeah.
I can't say no. You've
Yeah.
pigeonholed me.
Yeah, exactly. So I just like the phrase. I don't even know if people will remember the name of the show. They'll probably just be like, "Oh yeah, your podcast, Cam, or your
Yeah.
podcast, Tori." Now that you're hosting this episode,
Yeah.
so
We've swapped roles and
Yeah.
it's nice. It's nice to be in front of the camera and not behind the camera, as I so often am.
Now for people that don't know, we are friends. You and I are friends, but we've made a bunch of stuff news to you. Well, I tell people we are
I'd consider us work colleagues
associates.
at best.
Yeah, true. Tori and I had a web series called Could Be Wrong back in the day. And I remember we had the same type of reflection because we spent like maybe 8 months. People are going to be shocked if they've seen the episodes that we took that long to write them. But we spent like 8 months writing all these episodes. Oh, I know why it took so long, because at first we weren't going to just do those episodes. We also had like the punk housemate ghosts.
Oh, yes.
We had all these other things we were going to do. But anyway, when we were finally on set and filming, and we were like wearing robes to stay warm off camera while everyone was setting up, you and I were
Which
like,
was
"Oh,
my
it's
favourite
so
part."
good to not be the ones having to set up equipment."
Yeah.
So it is nice to be in front of the camera.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I guess that was probably when we first met and started hanging out and working together.
Yeah.
What really solidified you as one of my favourite people was one night I made a curry for dinner and you ordered $40 worth of naan from Uber Eats to go with the curry. And I was like, he gets it.
That would have been my contribution, because
Yeah.
because that was probably before we were properly friends. But as you now are aware, I do not love cooking, and so I would have been like, it's so amazing that this Tori character has spent time making food that I'm going to eat. I can't do that, but what I can do is make sure
Order
that
from
one of the
Uber
best
Eats.
parts of Indian food gets here.
And $40.
It's quite a lot of naans, and I think naans are like $3, so whatever that maths works out as.
But I was like, it's cool because you're right. There's never enough naan.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah, I'd forgotten about this, but I think that my logic with naan is nobody is ever like, "Oh no, it's so sad that there was too much."
Yeah.
Like, it's always the opposite. If there's not enough, it's a
so
it's a
sad
yuck
that there was
feeling.
too much
Yeah.
naan. Okay, first question. First question actually is, I guess, let's talk through the history of Cam's podcast, because I feel like I've been on that journey with you
Yes.
for the whole time.
I
I would say Keeping Up with Cam was the first.
Recapping.
Recapping with Cam.
Yeah.
God, I can't.
That's
Was
actually
I even there?
That's actually a better name. Now that I think about it.
No, it's Keeping Up with the Kardashians. That's where I got that from.
I see. Yeah. So that was the first. So I've been doing the Charging Stallion podcast with Timmy probably I guess, 7 or 8 years now. And I love that. And we still have that podcast. But something that's like, it was like an internal challenge to me. I was like, I know that solo podcasts are so much more challenging, like to be able to just be the main person and sometimes not have a guest to bounce off or not have a partner to bounce off. And so it was almost like I just wanted to see if it was possible to do the solo thing. And originally I was watching the season of The Bachelor that was out, and the show that I was doing was called Recapping with Cam, where I'd just watch an episode and then I would choose my favorite parts and talk about my favorite parts of the episode. And that was cool. It was more like a web series than a podcast because each episode was about 2 minutes long from memory. And then I got so hooked on that I was like, oh, I want to keep the solo podcast going. Should I rename it? Should I keep it the same? If I keep going and it's just me sort of talking or interviewing people here and every now and then, does it make sense for it to be called Recapping with Cam? Because I don't recap anything. And I rung my friend. I feel like I'm going to throw him under the bus. I rang my friend Sean Kirkwood, and I was like, "Hey man,
last name too."
I don't want to throw him under the bus, but here's his details:
address, phone number.
I was like, "Does it make sense if this podcast is just me like talking to musicians and comedians and stuff? Does it make sense for it to still be called Recapping with Cam?" And he was just like, "Yep." And so it has been called that for a couple of years now. But yeah, I don't know.
Just, yep, that was the end of it.
And that was enough for me. I was like, I trust you, man. Yeah. But I don't really blame him. It was still my decision. I could have said, no, Sean, don't send me down this path. But anyway, nobody has really cared. Like, nobody said to me, damn it, Cam, pull it together. Why is the name not matching the content? It's just that it's been just a little niggle for me. So I've been trying to work it out. And I feel like no worries if not. Or maybe I should just call it Cam.
I like, I was thinking about it on my way over as I picked us up some chai lattes.
Thank you, by the way.
Chai lattes with Cam?
Oh, yes. Very specific.
Very specific. You could get like a chai latte sponsorship, like a brand of chai.
But what if I go off them?
Which could happen. Yeah.
Because 6 years ago or something, I probably would have called it like alcoholic drinks with Cam.
Yeah. Cruises with Cam.
And then I'll be like, damn it. How am I going to get around this?
Yeah. That brings me to the perfect segue, which is your sobriety.
Yeah.
Which I think is an interesting part of you that maybe a lot of people don't know.
Because I seem drunk.
All the time.
Yeah.
Or at least the reasoning behind it, how you feel now, if you think that you would ever drink again.
Yeah, it's a good question. The reasoning behind it is different to the reason why I don't go back to it. Like the reason that I first quit drinking is different to the why currently I'm like, I don't want to go back to it.
Yeah.
So back in the day, like close to 6 years ago, one of my best friends passed away. And at first I didn't want to process or think about that feeling because it was the worst thing that I could imagine in the world. And so I was like, oh man, how do you avoid thinking about the most heavy, painful thing? Well, there's a really easy thing to do other than embrace those feelings, and it's just getting hammered. So I just drank more. And I already before that loved to drink, and so I just kind of like cranked that up a little bit more,
which is so surprising for me to hear because I think I met you post that era of your life.
Oh, really?
And I can't imagine you just like go 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 woo.
Yeah. Some of my good friends will be like, well, yeah, we can imagine.
Yeah,
we can imagine.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I guess I was still the same dude, but maybe
just drunk,
even more obnoxious.
Yeah.
I used to get really nasally, like a really piercing voice when I've been drinking a lot louder, yelling a lot, like saying a lot of the same things, but just like 10 times the volume. But yeah, so for a while I did just drink more for a few months because it helped me just not think about anything. And then it wasn't like there was a event that made me start to reconsider it, but I do distinctly remember getting like 3 months down from that point and realizing, okay, I'm at a crossroads. I can either continue on this path of just avoiding really big feelings and become the same as every middle-aged man and just have huge road rage outbursts, or just like have anger issues that come out of nowhere and surprise everyone around me. Because I believe that type of surprise rage is due to people not processing discomfort or loss at the time that those things happen. So I just knew I can either stay on this path and just road rage at everybody and flip out,
be a defensive jerk,
flip out as a 50-year-old man, or I can just cut the alcohol completely out, try to process the grief, try to process the loss, talk to people about how sad I feel rather than pretending I'm fine and it coming out as something else. Spoke to friends about it, and but most importantly, I think I started going to a therapist and talking to a therapist about it. So a lot of people have different views on how they some people feel like they have to have a level of trust and friendship with their therapist before they're willing to open up. I view them kind of differently. Like, I just view them as I'm just going to sit in there and talk to get a whole bunch of stuff off my chest. I've probably had 5 therapists. I don't know any of their names, because to me, and it sounds dehumanizing, but it's just, I'm there to
vent.
Yeah, to vent.
Yeah.
And then I just walk out and I feel way better, and I don't know how they feel better, but but that's their job. They get paid for it.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of misconception about people expecting their therapist to like come with so many solutions. Like, I got nothing out of that session. It's like, I feel like a big part of therapy is that it's just having a safe space to talk and get it off your chest. And you kind of have to do a lot of your own work.
For sure. I've also heard a lot of people kind of offended by stuff their therapist. Like, my therapist said I should consider whether I had anything wrong that I did. I'm going to go to a different. I'm going to go to a different therapist. It's like, but did you think about the question that offended you? Or so anyway, I'm probably at the far end of that scale where I don't really care who the person is, just as long as they're willing to listen. Yeah, as long as it's seeming like it's nodding in my peripheral. Yeah. So did that, and then I'd say a year into not drinking, I noticed some other benefits. Like, I just felt like I had more energy physically and mentally. I felt like my career started going better. Like, I had the energy and also the focus to care about trying, rather than like feeling like, oh, my job is just something in the background and these are the things I actually love to do. Had good periods with music, and and after that year, I guess I never told myself, oh, this is forever. Partially because I knew that if I said, oh, I'm not going to drink forever, there would be a rebellious part of my mind that said, oh, is that right? And then I'd be drunk that night. So I've always kind of kept it in this limbo state where I've never said, oh, yeah, I promise this is forever, because I know the other part of my brain will be like, well, you're proven wrong. Here we go. But I wouldn't be surprised if it does end up forever, is kind of the way that I trick myself into not rebelling against a commitment.
Yourself.
It's a complicated way to do it, but that's how it's working for me. And so,
do you find that you're an all or nothing kind of person?
That's a good question.
Like, for you, was it like, okay, I have to not drink, I have to tell myself I'm not going to drink at all, rather than just drink less? Or
yeah, that's a great question. So I actually think I could drink moderately, and
I'm not trying to coax you into drinking.
Yeah, do you want me to drink?
I've spiked the chance with whiskey.
I think that I could, but to me it's like, why would I? Because it's me right now, the chances are pretty low of me having 10 beers, but me after 3 beers really wants to have 10. Yeah. So it's like, and I wouldn't consider myself an alcoholic. I think that there are people who are alcoholics, and I've had good conversations. They're dealing with something completely different to what I'm dealing with. I had an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, which I removed in order to process some emotions and grow. But it's different to alcoholism, where people can't stop at one and it just takes over everything. Yep. So I feel grateful that I'm not in that category. But I'm just thinking about whether or not I'm an all or nothing person in other areas.
Hmm.
I don't really know. I'm not sure. Maybe.
I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bit of self-reflection posted back on you.
So that's what it feels like.
Do you think that there was a big part of that entire journey for you that led you to do this line of work? Like to be able to have these kind of conversations, to have, to be able to get to like the deeper end of things with people.
I see. I actually don't think my interest in having slightly deeper conversations came after my sobriety.
Yep.
I reckon I've always kind of had, to me, part of it is I feel like you get to know somebody better when you're honest and when they're honest. And I've always felt that way. And also I like to laugh. And I feel like some of the funniest stuff is not intentional jokes with setups and punchlines, like the Irishman and the baby, and they're coming to the bar and then this one said this. Like for me, the funniest stuff is like somebody going, this is why I feel so embarrassed. This is what I said to the person. Can you believe it? Like somebody being vulnerable and saying, oh, I'm the worst. Like this is what I said to her.
Funny.
Yeah. To me, that's a crack up. Yeah. Because I think it's like if you didn't talk about it and have a laugh about it, you'd be upset.
Yeah.
But anybody who has the ability to go, oh, listen to this, man, I was so cringe yesterday. Like if you can have a laugh about that stuff, then I'm all for it. And I find that type of thing more funny than a setup and a punchline. So
interesting.
Yeah, part
like
of it is getting to know and connect with people, but part of it is I think there's funnier stuff to think about and talk about when it comes to honesty rather than
being able to laugh at yourself rather than
Yeah, that's an important aspect of it as well, is you can't just laugh and shame somebody for their most deepest thing without building some rapport. Yeah. But somebody else bringing up their own shame and having a laugh is good. Yeah. Yeah.
In keeping in theme with the podcast, which I've just made up that the theme is about talking about emotions. What is a life lesson that you're learning at the moment? See, it's interesting. Now you're put on the spot.
Yeah. It's good for me though, because I do this all the time. Yeah. To other people, I put them on the spot.
Enjoy your chai.
I think the thing I'm trying to learn, and I say trying to because I haven't nailed it yet, is learning not to spread my focus too thin across too many things. Yeah. Because there's lots of things that I love. I love making music. I love writing acoustic pop punk. I love writing garage punk. I love podcasting. I love acting. I love my work. So for work stuff, I work in social media and I genuinely love that. But sometimes I'm like, okay, I've got these 7 projects and I love gaming and I love comic books, and like I'll be like, how do I give enough attention or time to all of these things equally? And that's how I used to think about it. Like, how do I make sure that every single one of these things gets me my full attention for like an eighth of the week? And that's actually not possible. Yeah. And so I have to and I am in the middle of getting better at going, you know what, my priority for the next 2 months is this band's EP coming out by this date. Yeah. And then my podcast or work never drops off the list, but I can like go, all right, well, we won't be going to that Comic-Con festival, or we won't do these other things that I am passionately into, because I just have to be good at actively prioritizing things. Yeah. Yeah. And it's a similar lesson in work, actually, now that I think about it. So where I was a year and a half ago is people would ask me to do stuff at work. They'd all come in with competing priorities, and I'd be trying to give them all equal attention and try to get them all done. I'd get overwhelmed. I'd do 3 of them really well. 2 of them I'd do half a job because they didn't have my focus, and 2 I would just completely forget because they're coming in on emails and calls and Microsoft Teams. And so I just had to get better at, in work, figuring out how to slow down and triage stuff and figure out which stuff is really a priority, or which stuff is this person just jumping up and down because that's their style, and then which things connect to what work my team is needing to be doing at the moment. So yeah, I hadn't realized that the lesson I was going through in work stuff over the last year is actually similar to how I'm trying to prioritize all of my passions outside of work.
How what has changed in your day-to-day life? Like, how have you facilitated this?
The prioritization thing.
Yeah.
There's two things, and they're really practical and really nerdy. And I know you want to keep this episode as a talking about emotions, but we're going to have to change that for a second. Talk about admin, admin techniques.
That's the one thing I was avoiding talking about.
Fast forward about 2 minutes if you're not interested in admin.
Actually, I need to change the cameras, so hold that thought.
Oh yeah, and is it still recording on the laptop?
It is.
Okay, cool. Was one of them still going or nah?
Both are still going.
Oh, nice.
It has half an hour. That was like 20 minutes.
Oh, sweet.
3, 2, 1. We're back in the room.
Keep all of it in though, please.
Yeah.
So the admin.
Back to the admin.
Yeah, hooray.
See, you've deflected the emotions.
Oh no, I've got to embrace them. Admin, hooray. There we go. That's much better. So there's two practical things that I'm doing already. One is if I get an email now, which I can solve within 5 minutes, I do it straight away. What I used to do is have these folders in my inbox, and because I get like 120 emails a day, they're just coming through, and you just got to go, they want me to do this thing. I can't think about whether we have the resource or whether to do it, especially if it's not a right now request. I'll just put it in my to read folder and then never look at it.
Yeah.
So
I feel that.
It's like, okay, actually.
I feel like a lot of us do that.
Yeah, because you go, I need
not
to use the energy
now,
on something
see you
else.
Later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've stopped. Well, I can't completely stop doing that, but I've stopped doing that for a lot of things. If I go, all right, they're only really after the email address of somebody else, and for me to tell them the cost of something, do it straight away. And then I do it straight away, and then that's off the list. It's like done for now. And then the other thing is I have these plastic cards, they're the size of business cards, and they just sit underneath my screen, and I've got a whiteboard marker, and you can write things on that list. Because I've got Trello and I've got my calendar that have all of my here's what you're doing today. But I find that having a physical reminder too, for a this has to be done today set of things. And so I'll write, somebody will be on a call like, oh, Cam, we need that by 5 p.m. If I put that in Trello, or if I put something into my Outlook calendar, when it gets to 5, I'm just going, I'm done for the day. I'm not looking at these other programs on my computer. But if I look down and see my handwritten thing, I'll be like, oh yeah, got to do that. And then once you've done it, you just wipe it off with a little cloth.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like fun. It's fun admin stuff, wasn't it?
I love that for someone who I have some of my most deepest conversations. We're sitting here talking about admin.
You got us here.
I know.
It's your fault.
It's all my fault.
Yeah.
It always is. Okay. Next hot topic of conversation.
Yes.
For anyone who follows you on Instagram, the last 2 days have been crazy here for you.
Yeah.
Because a pigeon landed on your doorstep.
Yeah.
And it's currently outside that window behind you.
Yeah.
Eagerly awaiting us to be done here so that you can go and hang out with it.
I know. I'm trying so hard not to get attached, but also I am the caretaker of this pigeon right now.
And how, in 25 words or less, how did we get here?
You on the admin side or the emotional side?
A mixture of the two in 25 words or less.
Well, I have been in touch with pigeon specialists, but they're just really busy. So
what do they sound like? What are they like as people? Like, what did you get from them over the phone? What did they sound like?
Have you ever met a really friendly, helpful librarian?
Like soft and gentle, but lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
That's what they were like. So
they'd have to be.
Yeah. I think they've all done the rescues firsthand, and then they go, all right, you want me to, and they're probably volunteers. They're just sitting at home and they answer their phone when it gets transferred. But yeah, I've spoken to Wildlife New South Wales, Wildlife Victoria, and I've been trying to message, I was saying to May before, wasn't I, message this pigeon rescue page on Facebook, and they've all kind of told me, and I've been following the instructions to just keep it warm in a cardboard box and put it up high away from the cat. But I just let it into the outdoor area for free time during the day. And I think it must have some kind of injury because it doesn't fly away. Like, it can fly a little bit up into the gutter, but then it just comes back down. And so I just put it back in the box. So I've had it for 2 nights now. I just put it in the box every night. Yeah, I'll be sad if it goes. But also, like, when I got little Buddy, my cat, they said, don't get another cat because she loves to be on her own, or she'll just want to be with you. She doesn't, and she also wouldn't deal well with a busy household, let alone a pigeon. Yeah, because that's the thing, she wants to hunt. So
how will you make it work?
Do you already think that I'm going to make it work?
I don't think that this pigeon is going to want to leave this gorgeous abode.
I don't know, it's going to take a lot of, like, me talking to
Buddy,
love. Like, Buddy, you just cannot kill this thing. It's hard to believe that this is your sister. And see what she says.
I'd be interested.
Yeah, we'll see.
What's I know that you don't want to go there, but have you already started thinking about names for the pigeon?
Yeah. Do you know The Walking Dead?
Yeah.
There's a guy on that who's a crack up carrying a baseball bat around.
I thought you were going to say a crackhead.
It's a crackhead. I want to name her after a crackhead. Just wandering, turning up on doorsteps.
Yeah.
Negan.
Okay.
Yeah. So Negan is a guy with slick back hair and a leather jacket.
Looks kind of like a pigeon.
Kind of like her.
Yeah. What, you keep saying her. How do you know that it's a her?
If you look at her eyes, they look like eyelashes.
Okay.
But it's like white markings around the eye.
Yeah.
So it's based on eyes.
As is how we should figure out everybody's gender in this modern day.
Exactly. Risky territory, Tori.
I feel like they're all the questions that I had on my list.
Yep.
Is there anything else?
So you're sober, Cam.
Yeah.
How do you tell me about your workplace admin and tell me about your bird?
Yeah. I mean, that's all I know about you.
Yeah. I wonder, I'm now going to ask myself a question. Is there anything Tori doesn't know about me?
Or the world.
Oh, yeah. I could teach you about the world. That is true.
Being my elder.
Yeah.
Wiser. Beyond years.
How many years apart are we? 37.
We're 7 years apart.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That must mean either I mentally stunted or you're quite wise.
Yeah.
That's probably it.
Yeah. Or a mixture of the two.
Yeah.
We probably meet in the
We're
middle.
both 33 mentally. I don't know, actually. I wouldn't assume that I know more. I feel like we've had enough deep conversations about, like, how do I navigate this thing? Or, hey, I'm dealing with this. That I don't feel like you need advice. Like,
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there an element of, or is there a piece of advice that you often find yourself giving, like repeating over and over to friends? I'm
trying to think of, I don't know if people come to me for advice.
True.
Yeah. I try to be somebody that's like, if I know somebody's going through something tough, rather than say, I've got the answer, or like, I'll give you advice, I try to more frame it as, I think venting is really important.
Yeah.
You've just gone through this breakup. I'm going to call you, or like, we should have a chat. and then try to just set it up so that they feel fine. Kind of what I get out of counselling, like how I love from these faceless, nameless therapists for them to just be
Who are smiling and nodding in the corner.
absorbing my trauma or absorbing my pain.
Mm-hmm.
I try to just offer that to my close friends. So rather than ever being in a situation where I'm like, oh, I've got advice for you, I find I'm more being like, I have no
I've got
idea.
space for you.
Yeah. I'm happy to listen if you need to just talk it out.
Yep.
And then usually I try not to give advice. Even if there's part of me that's like, oh, they could do this because you went through something similar. I'll be like, shut up.
It's different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I so often find myself repeating this one piece of advice. And it's always, just be yourself and have fun.
Applicable to everything.
Applicable to everything in life.
Divorce, grief.
Yeah, just be yourself, have fun.
Scamming. You find out they're a scammer.
Yeah. Oh, well, just be yourself and
Be
have
yourself.
fun. Get over it. Have
Yeah.
fun.
It's a good attitude. Say la vie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten advice that stuck with you?
This isn't about me. This is about
Oh, yeah.
something that really stuck with me recently was learning how to separate my email inbox so that when emails come in, I'll reply to anything that requires 5 minutes.
Great lesson. It's genius.
Yeah. That just changed my life.
Yeah. Well done.
Yeah. Simplicity is key.
Yeah.
Do you have any more questions?
Oh, you are going to let me ask you questions. I might ask you that same question that you asked me before. What's the lesson you're learning in your personal life at the moment? What's the current lesson?
Yep. Current lesson for me is remembering my individuality.
Mm-hmm.
My partner is away at the moment on tour, and we've been dating for a year, and it's total la la land, and it's gorgeous. And I've been so like wrapped up in that beautiful whirlwind.
Yep.
But while he's away, it's very important for me to remember who I am as an individual person outside of, and this could be a relationship, this could be a friendship, this can be when you live with housemates. I think it's just important to remember at any moment in your life when you're alone who you are.
Yeah.
And to like love that person.
Yeah. What are those things that you've been like, oh yeah, this is me?
Yeah. I love baths.
Yeah. Nice.
I love reading. I'm a filmmaker, so I love any opportunity to watch like an old, like a classic film.
Like What Lies Beneath?
Yes.
Harrison Ford.
You just had that one at the ready.
For that moment, I knew you'd say that.
Yeah. Long walks, actually walks, lots of walks. Walking dogs is one of my all-time favorite things.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when you walk a dog, as much as you're enjoying it, they are loving it.
Yeah.
You've never seen any living being more happy to be at that moment in that time than a dog on a walk.
So true. It's never flipped. You never see the owner more excited than the dog. Have you seen some owners get more excited?
I don't think that they physically show it like a dog does.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Have you ever felt, what's that dog that you always go collect?
Gerald.
Have you ever felt more excited than Gerald when you've taken Gerald for a walk?
Sometimes it's on par.
For real?
Yeah.
Wow. And that doesn't mean that Gerald's mellow. That just means like you're
like,
also
whee!
very into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard one to describe. It's her friend's dog, but she has it a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's my friend who is a dog.
Yeah.
Gerald.
Who lives with your friend who's a human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like he's my friend who I just hang out with.
Yeah. Yeah, he is actually quite.
Have to talk to.
That's actually nice.
Yeah.
There are good friendships like that.
Yeah.
One of my really good friends from New Zealand, we have that kind of friendship where we can just hang out and do nothing. Just like be on our phones or just stop talking and it doesn't feel weird. And I remember his sister asked me about like, oh, how do you get along with him? Like whenever I hang out with him, like he won't say anything to me. I was like, oh, that's so interesting that she felt like the not talking was something to do with, no, she felt like it was something like, oh, what have I done? Like, Cam, how do you hang out with him? And she was assuming that we were talking the whole time. I was like, no, it's the same for me and your brother.
Yeah.
It's quiet a lot of the time and it's cool.
Yeah.
But because it was quiet, she was like, oh, he doesn't like me, or there's some issue between me and my brother. My brother's always off with Cam and I assume they're talking all the time. And then when she hit me up about it, I was like, nah, it's just silent too.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, okay.
It's interesting to me, and I think this comes back to the life lesson, like it's interesting when you can't sit in silence.
Yes.
Or the discomfort of sitting in silence. And I think that's such a strong skill to constantly teach yourself and others, and especially when you're two people sitting in a room sitting in silence, like it's very powerful.
Definitely. Something that I've realized is much more common than I thought, because I live alone and a lot of my friends do not live alone. They might live with their partner or they live with housemates. And they'll ask me like, oh man, how do you handle living alone? Like it's this big chore.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, well, it's awesome. Like it's the best. And I'm like, why wouldn't you live alone? Like if you weren't with your partner, why wouldn't you do it? Yeah. They're like, oh, because it's terrifying to be alone with my thoughts. And I'm like, and that's not just a couple of people, like heaps of people that I've spoken to, they say that's the reason they won't live alone, because they're too scared of being alone with their thoughts. And
how do you fill every gap of the day with distractions though? Yeah,
I dated somebody like that years and years ago back in New Zealand, and it's just like there is no gaps. Everything is a conversation. During dinner you're eating, making dinner you're eating, like drifting off to sleep. Not eating. Sounds like I was having a go. And somebody, oh man, she loved food. That's how I dealt with it. She was talking, I was eating.
Yeah.
No, talking. No matter what else, no matter what the other thing to do was, there was just like, it was just non-stop. And and it's not because there was a really important topic to cover, or like, hey Cam, I'm keen for your take on this, or hey Cam, I want to share this thing. It was just like a scaredness to like, oh, I don't want to stop and have to think. Yeah. Interesting. So I think it is common that people like just don't want to be alone in silence. It's probably why phones are so popular. Yeah, absolutely. Like you right in your pocket, you don't want to think. And I love phones. Yeah. But yeah. I love phones. I like your honesty. So maybe we could wrap up the end of this podcast by taking a moment's silence. Yeah. Eye contact. With eye contact. Have you done that before? No. Are you going to time it? Can we blink? Yeah, you can blink. Okay. Is it like a game of chicken where it's like whoever laughs first loses? Talks. I win. Is that long enough? And we're just going to fade out from here. 10 minutes. We'd end on 10 minutes of silence. No. Do it to the camera as well. Look at one of our eyes. That's actually much easier than staring at a person in silentness. Staring at a person in silentness, it's like... I mean, we can sit here in silence doing our own thing. But staring at each other in silence, that's something else. I feel like I should admit something. Yeah. It feels like I've done something wrong. Yeah. Like, all right, I'll tell you. Yeah. That's probably enough. Yeah. It's like, do we go back to it? Okay, and how do you usually sign off on the episode? You just change your tone. You just go, all right. And just by having that different sounding voice,
Yep.
the guest knows, oh,
The admin.
we're done.
All right.
Yep.
Thanks for coming.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
See you later.
See you.